Afternoon, folks. Adam Brian Dada here with episode 9 of the Lower Reward video series. Today is a clickbait headline. I know some of you will probably laugh about it, but it's true. Stop intermittent fasting. Stop dopamine fasting. Stop porn fasting. Stop NoFap. Especially stop telling people about that, because that's the wrong mindset. Those are consumer mindsets versus producer mindsets. Those are red and blue pill ethos versus the yellow pill pathos. Today we're going to start a discussion on how to change your mindset. And I think it's actually pretty easy. I started talking about this about 15 years ago. Today, we're going to get right into it. Some of the secrets I've shared only with my proteges that I've mentored to. When you talk about intermittent fasting, which is something I've been doing and promoting since about 2008, a lot of you from Reddit and elsewhere actually know of me initially because of intermittent fasting that I pushed that long ago. But when you get on that intermittent fasting schedule, which means for some people eating for 6 hours a day and not eating for 18 hours a day, why do we call it intermittent fasting? What's the goal? Is it to fast? Well, I don't like that as the point of normal. Our normal is that we're fasting. We're not intermittent normally. We normally aren't eating. Even if you eat 6 times a day, you normally aren't eating. The reality is we're intermittent feeding, or as I like to call it in my secret groups, intermittent calorie consuming, or scheduled eating. The fasting is normal. Every time you stop eating, you're fasting again. So why do we focus on the fasting? Well, consumers like to be challenged so they can prove brands wrong. And the guy that's selling you his intermittent fasting mentorship wants you to succeed, even though he's acting like you're going to fail. So by calling it intermittent fasting, we're focusing on what would be supposedly the difficult part, the not eating. The consumer is always looking for a distraction from the difficult part. And the same is true with these so-called dopamine fasts or with porn fasting. We're not consuming porn 24/7. Maybe some of you are. But the majority of us are not consuming porn 24/7. When we do, it's intermittently. We're intermittently consuming porn. Dopamine fasts are absolutely ridiculous. You can't live without dopamine. Hunting and dressing an animal and then grilling it up and eating it gives you dopamine. We don't want to be without dopamine. So knock that whole ideology out. We're not going to do intermittent dopamine bursts either. The thing that I've strived to explain to newcomers to the low reward living mindset is our goals need to be a little further out in the future. A little farther out in the future, a little further out. I'm always wrong with that one. Getting there should be a little more time consuming, should involve a little more risk taking, should cost a little more money. The process, when you start to adhere to a goal of a lower reward activity, are those. Have a little risk of failure. Have it take a little longer than usual. Don't just press a button and win. Rather than playing a video game on your couch, walk to a bar with an arcade machine with some quarters you saved up for a couple of weeks. Don't drink, just go for that purpose. A little bit of risk, a little bit of patience, a little bit of cost, and the reward is going to be a little smaller in your brain, conditioned. Intermittent video game playing. I like that. Instead of video game fasting. When a producer sets his goals, he's not thinking about the reward. that's not the goal for the producer, because he's taken on a mindset for that particular goal. And the mindset is, I'm going to work hard. I'm going to take risks. I'm going to strive toward many potential goals, a contingency of goals. And when I get to one of them, I'm going to celebrate. Celebration is a big thing that a lot of naysayers about low reward living will criticize me on. In fact, even today on Facebook, somebody asked, well, what's the whole point? What is the goal here? If you don't do these consumer behaviors to feel happy, what do you do at all? You mow the lawn, you pick the weeds? It doesn't sound very good. Well, that's true. The guy who asked the question, he's fat and he's addicted to consumer activities, and he needs more and more and more of them. So he looks at me and he's thinking, holy cow, this guy is boring. And as you know from a previous episode or two, boredom is another word for motivation. So how do we get on an intermittent consumption program? Well, going back to episode 1, when I decided to try and go get some Burger King tacos, you start by decreasing your rewards in all the little steps that it takes you to get to the final reward. A couple episodes ago, I asked you to look at one of your rewards and try and delay it a little bit. Leave some comments in the comment section on YouTube. Let me know what you did on that video. But in this video, we're going to work a little bit more toward the celebration part of things. Instead of working toward this consumer hedonistic goal, I'd like you to plan for a consumer hedonistic goal based on doing something good for your power building or your success building, to differentiate yourself from someone who's just doing it because they're bored. One of the things I like to do recently was go and clean down my bathtub. That one sounds crazy boring. But as a reward for cleaning down your bathtub, if it's disgusting, I have long hair, so you can imagine. Set yourself a typical reward that you would just do because you so-called enjoy it. And what are some of the rewards? We haven't gotten into that yet. That's going to be one of the next introductory episodes. But a quick recap. Some of the rewards might be just listening to music, your favorite band. That's a very high reward activity. Watching Netflix, very high reward activity. Consuming porn, very high reward activity. Ordering a pizza delivery, very high reward activity. And I'm not telling you to get rid of those things. That's not how I live my life either. All those things have a place in my life, except I approach them as a producer. I think about them as someone who wants to partake in hedonistic distractions after I've succeeded at a goal that I wanted to succeed at. And maybe I didn't reach my ultimate goal. Maybe I reached my penultimate goal, or 3 or 4 categories down, because one of the yellow pill ideologies is have many options. Don't ask one girl out, ask 100 girls out. Yeah, they hate that. They talk about it on Facebook. Wait till they're 40 years old. The point is, have multiple options. If one of them you succeed at, reward yourself with a celebration of something you would plan to do. And those goals don't have to be huge. They don't have to be get that $100,000 contract or sell 100 t-shirts or get 50 new OnlyFans subscribers. It doesn't have to be that. It just has to be a little change from yesterday. And you can't reward yourself with the same little change. Maybe the little change is, I'm going to stand instead of sitting while I eat my next meal. I do that. I stand for all my meals. But I'm not an intermittent sitter. I don't actually sit ever. But when we talk about these things, I don't sit intermittently. I stand all the time. But for someone who sits on their bed when they put their socks on, and sits at the breakfast table when they're eating their cereal, and sits in a cubicle for 8 to 10 hours, and sits in the car there and back, standing could be intermittent. And we don't call it intermittent sitting like intermittent fasting. We call it intermittent standing. But try that. Try standing every time you use Facebook. And each time you do it, say, I've met my goal, and here's how I'm going to reward myself. Maybe I'm going to reward myself by watching Netflix tonight. Make it a little reward and a little challenge and a little goal. The point of fasting, in all things reward, the point of fasting is to enjoy them more because we're enjoying them slightly less often. And I'm not telling people to curb everything. You don't have to stop drinking beer. You don't have to stop smoking cigarettes or weed. You don't have to stop Tinder swiping and liking and not liking. You don't have to stop anything. You have to pause it. You have to pause it actively. You have to pause it knowing that too much of this, too quickly, too cheaply, and too frequently is actually causing you to lose motivation. By pausing a little bit, a tiny amount, you're going to find yourself more receptive to success. You're going to make yourself more of a winner in your own brain. You're going to feel more confident. I would even go as far as to say, and this is a later episode, you're going to find yourself more charismatic than other people. Because charisma doesn't mean that I'm charming, doesn't mean that I'm attractive, doesn't mean that I'm funny. Charisma means I'm laid back more than you. And the reason I'm laid back more than you is because I know that you're addicted to hedonistic consumer behaviors. It's amazing to think that, I mean, I'm not a smart guy. I didn't go to college. I didn't really go to high school either, let's admit that. And, I never had a good job, never really excelled at anything, but my charisma that came from knowing that I wasn't a mindless consumer has let me succeed in almost everything that I put my mind to. The same thing is true with confidence. I know I'm going to succeed, not because I'm great at it, not because I'm smarter, not because I'm faster, not because I'm stronger, not because I have more money. It's none of those things. You know why I'm going to succeed? Confidence. Because I've got like 30 options for success. One of my successes might be make $1 million this week. Not going to happen. One of my successes might be make $15 this hour, passively. That'll probably happen. When we move toward the mindset of intermittent consuming, with fasting being the norm, our mind changes. In many people, it changes as quick as 2 weeks. 2 weeks, and you're on a new mindset. 2 weeks, and you're starting to realize that consumer consumption is a reward, is an act of celebration. Just 2 weeks. We're not starting a 2-week self-study today. Today I want you to just do one thing only. And as you move toward that one thing, as you adapt your brain to understanding that before we tried to wipe away boredom with a distraction, now we're going to celebrate success with a celebration. It's the same end result. But because you added a little delay, you're going to slowly condition your brain away from mindless, hedonistic consumerism. I've had a lot of success with a lot of consumers in regards to losing weight, in regards to breaking alleged addictions, in regards to curing so-called boredom, in terms of not feeling so much anxiety or depression. And the reason why all of them succeeded is because they added a little bit of a delay. They added a little bit of a risk of failure. They added a tiny bit of cost. And they pushed out the consumer distraction and made it a producer celebration. I'm hoping you can join me anytime this week, next week, picking out one of your consumer rewards, calling it a producer celebration, and picking something that you would normally want to do but you always put off. Just a little thing, 5-10 minutes at most. Maybe it's doing 10 push-ups that you haven't done in a year. I don't really care. What I would really like is for you to not respond on Facebook or Instagram or private messaging me or any of that junk. And please reply in the comments below. The comments here help me want to make more videos. I have 5,000 videos to make on the angel side. I have 5,000 videos to make on the Patreon and subscriber-only devil side. That's 10,000 videos. That's a long way ahead. And I'd like to be doing 2 or 3 of these a day for specific people with specific problems that I consider opportunities for them. But I can't get there without a little more interaction. So please, do something this week, mindfully. Post about it in the comments here, and let's start a discussion. I really appreciate all the positive and negative reviews and commentary. I'm excited to get deeper into all of this as these introductions get finished up. And if you do have any questions, ask them below, and I am more than happy to create a video just to answer them. I'm Adam Brian Dada, and this is the Low Reward Living video series.